Okay, we're going to call to order the Raymore Parks and Recreation Board meeting for Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. Can I get a roll call, please?
Present.
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 Okay, next we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is personal appearances. Not seeing any, we will move on to item number 5, consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda of both items A and B.
Okay, hearing do we have a second?
Second.
It's been a while since I've done a meeting, sorry. Hearing a first and second, any discussion? Melinda?
Actually, I got a couple, this is on the minutes, correct? I have a couple of things on the minutes, nothing major, but just on the first one, there was the absent, make sure on the, yeah, it just said there was 0 absent, and there was 1 absent. On the second meeting, I think it said 7 with 0 absent, it's supposed to be 6, 2 absent, and the same thing with the second motion. See where I'm, follow me? At least on mine,
You got it? Okay.
on all 3 of those. Okay.
We'll proofread those and make sure they're updated
Okay.
before they get logged in permanent
Okay.
record.
Thank you, Melinda. Anyone else? Not hearing any other, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor? Against? And abstain? Okay, so the vote is 6-0 to 2 abstain. Next, we'll move to staff reports. Director?
Thank you, sir. I will ask Superintendent Rouleau to make a parks report.
Thank you. I've inserted a written report in the packet, but wanted to hit on a few things. I just wanted to let everybody know we found out late last week that our Tree City USA application was accepted again this year for the 7th year in a row, so I was happy to hear that. And they also gave us the information that this year throughout the state of Missouri that you're not required to do a Arbor Day celebration. Just with the coronavirus going around, they're just X-naying that for the year. We had kind of planned that we were going to see if we could get a Boy Scout group to come in and kind of do a funny picture with 6 foot all back, but if that doesn't come to fruition, then we just won't do one. So also just wanted to let you know on the agenda is we got about 3 places I do believe left to plant flowers. Hopefully we get those in this week before or in between all the rain showers. And other than that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Superintendent Rouleau? Brian?
Hi, Mr. Rouleau. I got a question. I saw something on Facebook today pop up about Memorial Park and some of the overgrowth. And there was a picture, but I couldn't make out where it was. I just wanted you to be aware that there's some stuff out there in social land about Memorial Park. And I'm going to guess it's the native section on the south side of the park because they were also referencing the lights that are getting replaced, right? So I'm going to guess it's somewhere on that south side of the park, which might be just some of the natives that are growing up. I mean, I don't think they said it was growing up over the trails, but they're like, come on, aren't these people mowing? And I didn't really jump in because I didn't know exactly what they were talking about, but Probably wouldn't hurt to just swing through it.
I'll take a look at it. It's, the only part I can think of it would be it's a creek area down on the south end, the southwest end.
That's what I was thinking, because there was a picture, and it did have like some blue in it, I think, and maybe even some yellow, and I'm like, well, surely it's not just grass that's that tall, right? And so it's probably that creaky area, and maybe they think it should be mowed green and like turf, like everything else, to look good, but, you know,
Yeah,
swing
it could
through.
be. I did not see that. I'll see if I can find it and
Yeah.
find out where it's at and go check it out.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Director?
Thank you, sir. I did not provide a written staff report, but I did provide the 2020 South Metro League Back to the Ballpark guidelines to keep you guys updated on how we're proceeding with implementing youth baseball and softball. And currently, as we speak, Todd is at the RAC doing coaches meetings, reviewing these guidelines with our coaches. This is a cooperative effort. If you had a chance to read it, it's a cooperative effort between our South Metro group, which is basically Pleasant Hill, Harrisonville, Peculiar, Belton, Raymore, and Grandview. And it's those cities when they play in that league. So for this year, Grandview is not playing baseball or softball, and Peculiar does not play baseball or softball. Their players come through us. So it's really just the other cities involved. But these are the approved guidelines that have been vetted through the Cass County Health Department, the Raymore Emergency Management, our own COVID team, the other cities, and this is what we're moving forward with in terms of putting play back in the fields. So we have been authorized by Mr. Fearborn with, given this programs in place, the hiring freeze for employees to help manage this program has been lifted, so we're hiring site supervisors, referees, a couple concession staff, things like that, getting that. It's very skeleton staff, but we're moving forward with that. And this Thursday, I will be participating in a radio program that basically discusses kind of the metro region, what everyone's doing. Cass County is, as you know, a little more relaxed than Jackson County in terms of their rules and regulations. So where some cities are not providing baseball leagues, we have the leeway to implement those things with these guidelines in place, but also the first and foremost, thing that we put forward is if you're uncomfortable, if you don't feel safe, if you don't like how it's going, it's a full refund and nobody's forcing you to sign up. That we want you to be safe. We want you to abide by these rules, but we also want to get some play back on the field and have a sense of normalcy a little bit within the boundaries that we're allowed to. This is what we feel like we can do. So we'll move forward with that. Also with summer camp, I've talked to you a little bit about summer camp. Corinne is moving forward with that. It's a little different ball game, but it's still moving in place. Basically what we're doing is breaking down the kids into much smaller groups. It's a little more work on our staff, but it's that was on camera, by the way. Everybody knows it. So the camp will move forward, and we're just watching what happens through the county and the state and the guidelines that come in place. So that's the COVID update. Also, as Member Howdy Shell mentioned in the work session, the Spirit of America, just to give you guys an update, the dominoes are falling across the metro area where cities are canceling their shows. The cost versus the expected outcome and the regulations is just becoming not worth it for a lot of cities, and they are canceling. Most recently, Independence canceled theirs. We still have ours targeted to go on July 2nd, like the contract that we passed. But I will say that what we call our COVID team and members of our management team that are involved in this, we're looking at this daily. We're running scenarios through how we can make this work. At this time, we have not canceled it. I'm not saying that's out of question whether we cancel it or not. It's just a matter of if we feel like the guidelines in place and the temperature of the region on hosting an event of that size wondering if we feel like we can make that a success. The challenge that we have right now is that the more events that are canceled, the more prominent ours become, and then it becomes more challenging for us to manage the expectations and keep people safe. If it was happening all across the board and we knew that most of them would be local and not traveling out of town, that's a whole different story. So we're working through those. I will keep you updated as things come. I'll use email as a venue to keep you guys updated on what we're doing with that program. But that is why I would hesitate doing anything in conjunction with that. Number one, it's really too soon to try to pull something together with that. But that's just an event that we don't know yet. I will say, not that I want to speak for the festival in the park, but I do want to give an update to the board because the festival's in our parks. They are undecided at this point too. They are watching. They've kept track with Cass County Fair, which is already canceled for the year. They're waiting to see how Missouri State Fair plays out, and then they will make their decision to host the festival in the park in mid to late June. That still gives them enough time to get their permits and their fees and all their stuff and their down payments on the rentals and all that in place before they cancel that. So that's up in the air as well. Last two things. Last Friday night, Corinne hosted the first ever esports tournament. It's an idea that we stole from Excelsior Springs. One of Steve and I's good buddies up there runs a very successful esports tournament. She held it here on Friday night. It's extremely successful. I can tell you that it will not be the last time we do that. I think it was a big learning experience doing it for the first time. And now that we've seen it done and see what we can do, it's probably going to be one of Corinne's bigger events as we move forward. So she's doing a fantastic job. We're really, really lucky to have her. And finally it's budget season. Steve and I will be putting a budget together. Given the calendar that we have, the whole thing is a little bit different than what we'll have done in the past, so we do ask for the board's patience on that. As we put it together, we will get it to you in front of you as quickly as we can. Just to give you an idea of what's going to happen is Steve and I are going to put it together. It will go to the finance department. They will review it, make sure we're not out of our minds and crazy, and it's prepared and ready for the city manager to see. What we want to do, and we started this last year, is we want to flip it. Instead of the park board prepare a budget for the city manager, we're flipping that, where staff, including the city manager, is preparing a budget for the park board to review. You review it, we go back as staff, make any corrections, any changes the board wants to do, and then it goes to council. So it's a little bit change for those of you that have been on the board for a long time, but I think it's the right change. It actually benefits us in our calendar this year. So what we hope, when you see it, you will have a staff recommended budget that you can really look through, have in your hands and go through line by line, check it out, and then we can make together as a group make any changes. And happy to answer any questions, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the director? Melinda?
So on the 4th of July or 2nd of July, would it be possible to kind of spread it out? Is it possible to do, not only Rec Park, but Memorial Park, and maybe if TB Hannah's open, and, kind of spread them out throughout the city in different locations? Is that, because I know I can see them from my house, so.
I think first and foremost, the message is going to be, if you can do it at home, stay home.
Oh, all right.
Watch it from home.
That's my preference.
There's a lot of scenarios we've been running through. I hesitate to say yes, we can spread it out by the parks because I only got so many people, and so if we start spreading that out, we can't control traffic. We can't if they go to another park to watch it, they're kind of on their own at that point. And I'm not saying it's out of question. Those are the things that we're working through. Every week we come up with a different idea or a different scenario, and then every week the rules change on us, and then another domino falls. So such a fluid subject that
Well, the good thing about Raymore is, I mean, we don't need, because there's so many fireworks here, I mean, I can sit on my front porch and just have a full display. I mean, every single night for about a week, So, I mean, that is the benefit of living out in the country per se. But, I'm not saying I'm, trying to push one way or another because, it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm just throwing out an idea that may be a way to spread it out. But I guess I am. I'm not a proponent to continue it. That isn't, I don't think it's a need, So, but it's an idea if we did decide to go forward with it.
On that, on that note, I do know, what we would probably run into is each one of those shells has a distance that it has to be before any households or anything, any buildings. So most, like a 6-inch shell, you have to have 600 yards. Or,
Talking about shooting at each park, I think she's talking about Spring Park and the show.
I'll shut up.
Bill?
All right. If that's done, the thing is, if we're looking at a display in each park, is that's what's being proposed, or just points of observation? Places of observation, is that what the board member's saying? All right, I just want a clarification on that, because one's expensive.
Well, I can tell you right now, contractually, we can't do that. It's too late in the game to split it up, and they don't have the team, because they'd have to have a team in every park, and we'd have to have the fire inspections and all those things. That is physically impossible to do at this short a notice.
Yeah, I was just talking about having different viewing sites around the city because it's something that you can see from most of the city. So, you don't have to be right there at Rec Park. And I think, if you've seen it, around the town, I mean, like I said, you don't have to be too far away and you can see it. So, in case and I don't know if I answered your question correctly then.
Ryan?
First and foremost, if we kind of throw our vote in, my vote is to continue with the 4th of July event, or 2nd of July event. Kind of being on the local pool board in my neighborhood, everybody was deciding whether or not to open their pools on June 1st or the 23rd or the 15th or all these different things. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson County Parks Department or Kansas City Parks Department originally said June 1st, and like 3 days before the weekend said, if you want to open, the public backlash was so bad that they said, if you want to open on the 23rd, they let them open on the 23rd, I believe is what the last article I read was. And I've also seen the backlash of canceling the Independence and the Lee Summit. If you look at it on social media, of course, from a city's perspective, public backlash is just part of it. But the backlash, as far as being a negative backlash of canceling something like that right before we go and try to get something put on the ballot for, what's the term I'm looking for? The Geo Bond project coming this fall. That's type of stuff that I think it kind of leaves a bad taste. I'll tell you from all the different calls and stuff I get to be on. Cass County, we've got more freedom to do a lot of stuff in this county than Jackson County and some of the other local counties around here. We've been they've been very lenient and very little direction as far as from the points that I've been able to be part of. So anyways, I say go for it. That's just my 2 cents.
Melinda?
And maybe you still do it and you just, tell people to stay home, or, you do something like that where you still continue it. You just say, but, try to, enjoy it from your house or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we still can present it, but just do it with caution.
As of right now, the plan is that the event as we've known it is not happening. If the show or the display happens, it will be a fireworks display only. Food trucks, bands, anything that promotes a gathering is probably not going to take place. I mean, it's going to be a very limited event, mostly to fireworks, come in, in a late arrival, come in, stay in your car if you have the means to stay in your car, stay home if that's even more feasible, shoot the fireworks and the event's over. I mean, if we move forward and it's happening, that is most likely, or at least I would say, on this date, of May 26th, that is where we're leaning towards, but we got a long way to go before July 2nd, so that all can change. The good thing is that we have a contract in place and we have some flexibility with that, so kudos to you guys for making sure that we got that moved forward and through the council.
Any other questions for the director? Okay, thank you, sir. Next, we'll move to unfinished business. We have none. So we'll move to item number 8, new business. Action item A, capital improvement plan. Director?
Thank you, sir. As we talked a little bit in my staff report, it is budget season. We are a little bit behind in the park board seeing this in terms of officially approving it and moving on with the next item of budget, but we are here. This is a capital improvement program that we began discussing in February. We met on May 12th and worked through this. These are the what you have presented. I did see one typo on it, but they're the 5-year capital improvement plan is presented as it was left at the May 12th work session, with no changes in dollars or anything like that. I did make some I changed in the 2021. You'll notice that it's a Hawks Nest playground, and then the TB Hanna site work, where when we talked about it in the work session, it said GeoBond contingency, and we didn't want that to be confused with the upcoming GeoBond versus the old one. So we just clarified what that project really was. That was at the recommendation of the CIP committee. I took this before them, and outside of that, it is what the board has discussed. I would say, given that sales tax are so volatile right now, not really knowing and not having the projections yet, when the motion is made to move forward, I drafted a recommendation or a motion to kind of read that gives the city manager the flexibility to adjust the price of or the project amounts based on what revenue projections are going to be. What you're seeing here is a general dollar amount that we typically hover around year to year. We just don't know what that's going to be, if it's there or not. So trying to be as close to accurate as possible, giving some flexibility to change everything except for rearranging of the schedule of projects. This is what we left May 12th with, so I'm happy to answer any questions, but that concludes staff report.
Any questions for the director? Not seeing any questions, I'll ask, oh, sorry, Ryan?
Just to clarify, the TB Hanna site work, the 225, that was what was discussed. We're probably not going to use all of that, and then the rollover goes to the GO bond, but at some point that was mentioned that would actually go in also to help the Hawks Nest playground.
Excellent question. That is the one with the change of the title. And just for clarity from a finance department, because I was told that I can't do it the way we had talked about, it needed to be specifically titled to go to TB Hanna. What we don't use, we would, as a board, do a budget amendment to take the remaining of that project and move it to Hawkridge Park. So we can still essentially do what we want to do. We just have to do it a little more legally. I guess this is a better way to say it. We can't just say whatever's left goes over there. We have to officially have a budget amendment to make that happen. So the premise is the same, it's just the titles are different.
So I could say I wanted to vote that this was good to go, but come that budget amendment time, if I'm not okay with reallocating the money to Hawkridge Park, that I have that say so
Absolutely.
as later on. Okay.
And that is if we bring it back for a budget amendment. We may not need to, we may not want to at that point. We may not have sales revenue projections or the actual revenues come in, have the amount of money in there to do that. So I like this plan better. It defines it better for us, and it makes us go step by step.
Brian?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the 5-year CIP program as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, hearing a first and second, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor? None against, so 8-4, 0 against.
Mr. Chair, can I make one clarification?
Yes, sir.
As presented, is that with the recommendation on the staff report that we can make adjustments to the project amounts based on revenue projections?
You want that re-proposed?
And just amend the
It
motion.
was presented,
Yeah, amend the motion to.
it was
just-
presented that way, so yes, my original motion did call for that, but I can redo the motion and
Okay.
state that specifically
If
if
the
you want.
intent is there, then we'll
The
move
intent-
forward.
Yeah, I think the intent's there.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on. Number 9, public comment. No public at this time, so we'll move on to board member comment. And Brian, I'll start with you.
I have nothing. It's kind of weird to get back to this, but I really don't have much to say. I'm glad to see everybody's healthy and doing well, and, you know, staff, you're keeping up on everything. It's pretty good. I did see that the umpires are gonna call the balls and strikes from behind the pitcher's mound, so I'm thinking about taking it back up again, so I don't have to squat, but, it's gonna be interesting. Keep us up to date. Send us some emails, or at least me, I guess. I'm interested to see how that's gonna go, seeing some of the rules that have been in place on the ball sanitizing. The other stuff really not a big deal, but just a couple of those really peculiar, and I don't know. I guess I'm not a worrywart, probably like some other people are, so I'm like, well, why? But, you know, I guess no skin off my back, but interesting.
Ryan.
No comment today.
Melinda?
Just glad we're finally able to meet again, so.
Bill?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Chanda?
I have nothing at this time.
Josh?
I have nothing, thank you.
Rich?
No comment.
And I'll just follow up again. As usual, thank you to staff, all the support. Again, not being able to meet, having what we've gone through for months now, seems like decades, but for months. Everything seems to be running right. I agree with Brian. These rule changes and stuff are, I guess, going to be our new normal, but it's kind of hard. Just everything seems to keep piling and adding to it, and you guys have done a great job pivoting when needed to pivot, and that's a big deal because a lot of people in this society are not. But yeah, those rule changes, I happened to see them too and was a little shocked by it, but nothing wrong with a little dirt and rubbing it on there, but I guess that's a bad thing. So appreciate all that you do, so thank you. Next, we'll move to adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, hearing a first and second, all those in favor? Passes 8-0. Meeting adjourned.